inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished.
Welcome to the Gridiron Breakdown.
We don't have a real name for it? Well, that'll give you media guys something to come up with.
What's your assignment?
Kill the quarterback. Hit the tight end so hard his girlfriend dies. Kill everything.
The football podcast for the fans, by the fans, where we discuss the X's and O's of each week's premier football game.
We've got to be the dumbest team in America in terms of playing the game.
I thought you were gonna do one of these.
Your hosts are Jay and Alan.
And when was the last time 80,000 people showed up to see a kid do a chemistry experiment?
You play football like Engineer plays football.
And Brian.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
And Lindsey.
My favorite scene. I don't know what a hokey is, but God is one of them. Go Virginia Tech.
Whichever one starts. Whichever ones don't, will back them up. Period. Cut and dry.
Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it.
I can tell you how they feel about it. They don't like it. It's a lack of respect. It's not doing your homework and paying attention to what reality is.
Now, let's get to the breakdown.
Looks to me like they're coming up with a plan.
Hello, you play to win the game.
It's time for the Gridiron Breakdown. I'm Jay.
I'm Brian.
I'm Lindsey.
And we are back for episode 7 of the 2020 season here on the Gridiron Breakdown. It is week 6 of the college football season and week 4 for the NFL. And it is ACC Showdown week. We got a couple of big ones in the Atlantic Coast Conference we're going to talk about, as well as some top games in the NFL to get you through. And we'll also hit up some SEC and Big 12 action. Alan on assignment this week to Savannah, Georgia. We'll get a full report from him next week, but glad to have all of you back, whether you're watching us live on Facebook on Wednesday nights, 8 Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, or you're watching the YouTube cast afterward or listening to the podcast. We appreciate your support nonetheless. So thank you for being here. So what's up, gang? Lots to talk about from last week. Let's start with some college football discussion. The danger zone rings true. Alan's not here to revel in the glory, but he called it. Texas goes down to TCU. They ended up losing by like 2. It wasn't that close. It was bad. Oklahoma also took one on the chin again last week. The Big 12 is a mess, and I think they are playing themselves right out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that Texas game was a struggle bus game for sure. And I honestly have no idea what's up with the Big 12. So we have the 2 highest ranked in the Big 12 at the beginning of the season, and now they both have early home losses to unranked teams. Is COVID 2020 football, I guess. I don't know.
It's something. It's no defense football, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we all knew that there wasn't going to be a Big Ten representative in the playoff anyway, right? I mean, it was quite obvious it's going to come down to the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yeah, you're going to get Big Ten, ACC probably if
Clemson, of course,
gets
yes.
through. Yeah, and then it's it's that roll of the dice. Like, are we going to get a second SEC team? What's it going to be? Big 12 teams have been in there though. Oklahoma's kind of dominated that spot, but you know what? People kind of forget they lost a lot of dudes from the last 3 or 4 years that have been running into the playoffs, and you just don't always reload immediately, right? I mean, Spencer Rattler's a real talented quarterback, but he also makes a lot of first-year starter mistakes.
And they're fighting with the big conference over there. Even if you're going south for something, a lot of times you're going to hit those SEC teams before you even think about Oklahoma these days. Oklahoma name value, I don't think is as big as it used to be. I don't. And then Texas, we all know they aren't as big as they used to be either. So if I'm a kid right now being recruited and I'm a 4-star athlete, I'm probably looking at the SEC or Clemson or somewhere like that.
Brian, you make an excellent point. Like, Texas talks about all their tradition and all their stuff, and they've certainly got a lot of glory. But the last time they were any good was 2009. That means this year's recruits were like 8 or 7. They don't remember. Like, Brian, you got 7 and 8 year olds. They're not going to remember anything from this time. And that, it just doesn't work. I mean, if you look at Big 12 teams right now, the only one that's been decent at all is Oklahoma, and they always seem to get beat. Yeah, so Big 12's a mess, but not nearly as a mess as the Florida State Seminoles, as I call them. Now, so Jack State is a school that is in my home state, Alabama, and, bless them, they have done pretty good on the FCS level. They've really kind of built something there. But under no circumstances should you ever trail them by 14 points at two different times in the game, when that is your paycheck cupcake game. Florida State is a total disaster. And that's another one too, that the last time they were any good was 2013 and 2014. They clearly have not cashed in any of the chips on that, because the last year Jimbo Fisher was a mess, and then the Willie Taggart experiment went bad, and now the Mike Norvell one is not off to a good start. So, Lindsey, I'll ask you, you're the ACC expert here on this. Like, what's FSU's road back? How long are we talking here?
Your guess is as good as mine. Honestly, hopefully this game kind of shook some of the mods or dust or whatever out of the attic for them. Hopefully it scared them enough to kind of get them back on track. But their next game is against Notre Dame, and I don't see it being a win at all, let alone easy for them, especially after seeing their performance this last week.
Yeah, they have such a talent deficit on the offensive line. It's amazing to watch that they just don't have any players there. And then I don't know how good their quarterbacks are, because those guys don't have any time at all. And if they've got anything at running back, those guys again have no way to get through to a hole. They're playing Notre Dame this week. That could get really ugly. In South Bend. I didn't even put it on the pick list because I thought that's not going to be anything worth talking about. In the SEC, I mean, Alabama looks like the machine that they always are. I mean, they're just blowing points out like crazy. They got a little pushback from Texas A&M, so I give A&M a little credit for punching back there for about half a quarter. But then Mac Jones just started dropping bombs on them. And I think what's weird is Alabama has gone from the game manager, smother you with defense kind of team to now they just outscore you. Like they just throw so many points on the board, and then their defense just tees off on you, and there's just nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised to see Alabama in the top class there for the SEC. But yeah, I mean, I guess Tennessee isn't.
They're okay.
I mean,
they're playing better. They got a big one this week. We'll talk about Florida and Georgia looking good in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, completely pancaked Auburn.
Is this an appropriate spot to say "Go Dogs"?
Go Dogs.
I would tell you, everybody was saying that one after that. But Florida ended up getting a win again. But Florida's defense not exactly there. They're just scoring a lot of points on people. So that eventually is going to be a trend they got to reverse, but not for a little bit here. In the NFL, Chicago falls from the unbeaten ranks. No one is surprised by this. Minnesota finally gets a win. Yay, for them. But the big news of the NFL so far this week is that Houston finally decided that they knew they had a problem and they did something about it. GM and head coach Bill O'Brien is gone. Ding dong. Everyone rejoice. Because the guy who ran that franchise completely into the ditch is now no longer there. Poor Romeo Crennel now has to try and guide that ship for the rest of the year. They were 0-4, guys, and or 0-3. They were looking at 0-4 real hard this week. So Houston, just another team. Like, I don't understand how they are as bad as they are, considering the collection of talent that they've got. I know they traded away their best receiver, but they still got a lot of dudes. So what
they got rid of they got rid of their whole defense, except for JJ Watt, who probably plays at a minimum because he just wants to play. They got rid of their best receiver. They got rid of their running backs. I mean, Bill O'Brien took everything that Deshaun Watson needed to make this a championship team and got rid of it. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm pissed right now because this guy came in here, gutted my squad, and then got fired for it.
Yeah.
And now he's there to take the rap.
They did give him the big contract extension though. So Deshaun's there.
What good is that?
He's got his money. So at least
but if he wants to, if he's young, he wants to win. He wants to be considered on the level as Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes as the leaders coming in of the new generation. But if he's got no one to play with, he ain't going to look so good there anymore. So that money, great, rack it up, but it ain't going to get you anywhere.
That's pretty rough. Another young quarterback bench this week for the Washington football team. Dwayne Haskins no longer the starter. They've gone to Kyle Allen of former Texas A&M fame and then Houston fame for a short bit, and played here for a few years in Carolina, and then went with Rivera to Washington. So he will now start. So I guess they blew a first-round draft pick on Haskins, and they're already ready to just go ahead and nix that. So the NFC East is a complete dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about it? Yeah. Dallas, Philly, Washington, and the New York Giants may comprise some of the worst professional football ever assembled.
I mean, the Washington is the number one team in that division right now because they own a tiebreaker against the Dallas Cowboys. All the teams at the top have one win.
And they just benched their quarterback.
Unbelievable. And Rivera told Haskins going into that game that if he didn't step up, he was going to bench him. Well, he gave him an ultimatum on a pretty rough game. I do have to say.
Yeah, it's hard to step up when you're running for your life every play.
Yeah. So that's a wow. What do you say? I mean, the Giants have a legit shot of winning that division right now because they're only one game out. They're one game out.
That is amazing. Have you seen the Giants play? If you've seen the Giants play at all this year, it's like Florida State bad. It's bad. Like they can't do anything right. But you're dead on. They're one game out of
game out of first. So, all they have to do is win the division, and they get a playoff spot, no matter how shitty they are. Right. We could have a team with 6 wins going to the playoffs this year because of that division.
We've had a 7-winner, right? We've had a 7.
We had Seattle went in as 7 wins one year, right?
Yeah.
And they were better than a 7-9 team that year, but they did go in with 7 wins. I swear we could have a 6-win team make the playoffs this year, the way that these teams are playing. And it's ridiculous. And it could be any one of them. Honestly, anyone. You know what? Philadelphia might get in because they have the tie.
Yeah.
Well, that could be the decider.
If they get honestly, of the 3 teams or the 4 teams that are there, though, like if Dallas could get their junk together, they could dominate that division. Like Dak Prescott is throwing for 500 yards a game. He's playing unbelievable. What's wrong? Why aren't they winning games?
Because they can't stop anyone else from scoring on them. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Cleveland put up almost 50 on them.
Cleveland had 300 yards rushing. In the NFL, that is nuts. Like,
We'll talk about Cleveland later.
Yeah, we'll get to Cleveland. Yes, we're not done with them yet. Lindsey, what about you? What is going on with the NFC East?
Oh, my God. I don't know. So just for a little fun fact reference, the composite record so far for the season you mentioned earlier, each team only has, I think, 1 win, right? Well, it's 3-12-1 or 3-12-1, which, by the way, is 1 tie away from matching the AFC Central's 3-13 start to the 1984 season, which is considered the worst win-loss record by a division.
That's a good stat that you put out there, Lindsey. 3-12-1. That means Philadelphia is in first place because they got a half game lead on the other team
because they tied Cincinnati. Yeah.
Oh my God.
that is just bad football. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's rough stuff. Yeah, that's the Conference USA of pro football. It's pretty bad. So, well, before we get into picks and stuff like that, we had kind of an offline discussion going a couple weeks ago, and I thought this would be a good thing to kick off now because the weather's pretty decent everywhere. We can't tailgate anymore, but game day go-to foods. Lindsey, this was kind of your baby, so please take us away.
Yeah, so it all started with, as Jay mentioned, a text chain talking about our favorite game day foods, some of which are very, very local. And I'd never heard of it. Jay, you'd mentioned it's some kind of sausage. Is that right?
Yeah, if you're from Alabama or even from the South anywhere, you've probably had Conecuh sausage at one time or another. You can get it in Evergreen, Alabama, and they'll ship it out, and you can buy it in stores throughout Alabama. I can even find it up here. Sometimes there's one barbecue place up here that gets it. But it's the most awesome sausage ever. It comes in two varieties. You get the hickory smoke or you get the spicy Cajun. And the spicy Cajun is kind of the thin one, and the hickory is the more thicker, sausage. And I've seen it done for breakfast. I've seen it done for lunch. I've seen it done as part of low country boil, where you throw in some corn and potatoes, maybe some shrimp, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of Old Bay seasoning. And it's just amazing sausage. So if I have like a game day go-to, it's going to involve like sausage of some kind. And every time I go back through Alabama, I try to stock up on Conecuh, or I have Alan like ship it to me because he can get there because he's a big Conecuh fan.
So yeah, I never heard of it. Also, you can order it online, folks. Jay was kind enough to share that link with me. Yeah, my big thing was always breakfast, but I'll get to that. I guess, Jay, let's start with you. Is that your go-to tailgate? Like, you have to have that on a game day? Or not necessarily tailgate, but
Yeah, it was when I lived in Alabama. Now that I'm here and I don't have access to it as much, no. I think my go-to thing on game day, if I'm going to watch games or whatever, usually when I get together with Nick, we usually will grill, and we get wings from a local grocery store here called Lowe's Foods. And the way Nick does wings is great. He cooks them in a slow cooker and then throws them in an air fryer at the end to kind of finish them off. And so I think like wings are kind of my go-to game day food right now when I'm watching football.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah, we do wings too. Wings are that's what everyone likes around here. So it's wings. A lot of times we'll do an appetizer platter. So I'll have like mozzarella sticks, wings, pretzel bites, just a whole thing of different appetizers that we'll put in the middle of the table, and everyone can just dig in. And that's what we usually do for the Super Bowl, especially. But yeah, wings is always on the menu.
Excellent. I hope I don't get hate mail for this. I don't like wings. I really don't. I can eat one, but it's a struggle. I'm not a fan, but I think it's more of like they feel slimy. I guess it depends on if it's like a dry rub or whatever, but I usually stay away from those. Mine's always breakfast food because usually we start early. So it's a Bloody Mary, waffles, omelet situation, usually some fried potatoes. My brother woke me up once after a night of drinking water before a game, and he woke me up blasting Enter Sandman, which is Virginia Tech's walk-in song, and had tried to make pancakes, but he used a waffle recipe, so the pancakes were like bricks. And he presented me breakfast in bed of these brick pancakes and a Natty Light. And I woke up and ended up making omelets for everybody. So breakfast has been the thing ever since.
You definitely got to get some Conecuh then and mix it in with your omelets, because that's the way to go. I'm telling you. So
definitely
do a good hash.
Oh
yeah,
really?
Yep.
I like a good hash if you can get a good one made. Yeah. So all depends on the time of the year. So you mentioned something there, Lindsey, too, just real quick on wings. I wanted to ask Brian, like Nick will mix it up or whatever. I'm a big like lemon pepper dry rub kind of fan on wings if I can get them done right. Like what's your kind of go-to sauce though? What do you like?
Barbecue is always number one. We also like a sweet chili type sauce, which if you have a Buffalo Wild Wings around, they call theirs Asian Zing, which we buy by the bottle when we go there. And so we usually spread that all over them as well. So that with ranch, can't beat it.
Yeah, I will second that as ranch as the dip to go to. I'm not a blue cheese fan, but
No.
Gridiron Breakdown emeritus Josh Hathaway will argue that he is a blue cheese guy. So,
I can't. I don't know how.
Yeah, someday we'll have him on the show. We can argue that out. So, okay, that's enough preamble. Let's get into talking about some football picks records to be updated. Once again, Brian, you went 8-2 last week. I just want to put out though, real quick, that the only reason I picked New England to beat Kansas City was because I thought Cam Newton was going to play. And when he went down with COVID, I think I should get a mulligan for that because I would have not picked him if I had known that last Wednesday. But anyway, whatever. Brian, you go 8-2, so your overall record is 35-11 on the year, 24-6 in college, 11-5 in the NFL. Allen went 7-3. Lindsey, you and he both went 7-3 last week. Allen's overall 31-15, 19-11 in college, 12-4 in the NFL. Lindsey, again, 7-3 last week. You were 29-17 on the year, 22-8 in college. So you're right behind Brian in the college picks, 7-9 in the NFL. And I went because, Cam got COVID. I went 4-6. Otherwise, I would have been even 500, but whatever. I'm 23-23 on the year, 17-13 in college, 6-10. It is not my year.
You see what happens when you invite people on?
I went from like dominating picks to I'm Cletus the slack-jawed yokel who can't pick a game anymore. Hey, whatever. It's fun. It's fun to talk about. I'm also in a fantasy league with Brian, and my team is a straight up offer. And I've decided if I can't get them to 500, I'm just going to go for the gusto and go 0-16.
You gotta tell them why you're a straight up offer too. Well, your strategy is very interesting. For this year.
To be fair, I added into this league the night of the draft because somebody had dropped out of your league. You needed an extra player. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I said, well, I have like no draft strategy whatsoever. What am I going to do? I was like, I know, I'll draft all SEC players. So I am all SEC players, which quarterback wise, you can do okay with. Receiver wise, if they stay healthy, Julio Jones, you can do okay with, but running backs, it's not a stellar thing right now for the SEC. And it's been a rough go, but we're going to rebound. It's okay. We're going to rebound the next time around. But Brian, since you are in the lead, you're going to lead us off in the featured games of the week. It's a big NFL matchup this week. The Indianapolis Colts, 3-1 on the year, going on the road to take on the Cleveland Browns, also 3-1. That's something I did not think I'd be saying at this time of the year. The 3:25 Central, 4:25 Eastern kickoff on CBS. It's the CBS national game. Brian, break it all down for us.
Man, I picked this game because I thought, well, there's a good chance we could have 2 3-1 teams here. I didn't believe it was going to happen, but here we are. Both teams are 3-1. Both teams started out 0-1 this year, guys. They're both on a 3-game winning streak. Mm-hmm. Wow. You got the Indianapolis Colts led by Phillip Rivers, and you got the Cleveland Browns finally looking like they're being led by Baker Mayfield. It only took a little while. A lot of good commercials, I must say. He's like the new Peyton Manning for the NFL. Great commercials. But let's take a look at this matchup. The Browns come in with the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. As you said earlier, they put up over 300 yards in rushing on the Dallas Cowboys last week. The Colts are the number 2 defense in the NFL. They held the Bears to under 2 yards a rush last week, and on the season have held opponents to only 4 yards per rush on the year. So that is going to be a good test for this Cleveland Browns rushing game. The Colts also are the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. Baker Mayfield comes in. He's not throwing a lot of balls. He's not getting a lot of yards in there. Odell Beckham finally came out of his shell this week to play. So maybe that helps a little bit with Baker Mayfield's game, but they're going against the Colts. And like I said, the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. The Browns gave up 500 passing yards to the Dak Prescott and the Cowboys last week. Doesn't look good on paper for the Browns right now. This should be a pretty good matchup for the Indianapolis Colts, who also bode one of the best offensive lines in the NFL as well. Phillip Rivers has only been sacked 4 times this year. Now, this will be a good test for that offensive line too, because Myles Garrett has 5 sacks in the last 2 games. He's coming in on fire. So Can they stop him? We'll have to wait and see. So it all lines up to be actually a pretty good game considering. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's hard to pick this game because I just don't have a lot of faith in Old Man Rivers. The numbers tell me I need to go with the Colts on this one because they have the best defense on both sides. And the Browns come in with, while they have the number one running offense, they have the number 29 passing offense. If they can stack the box against these guys and just stop the run and make Baker Mayfield win the game for them, that's their only hope. That all said, I'm taking the Browns to win this one, guys. I'm going to take the Browns at home to beat the Colts, and I'm going to say it's going to be a 24-21.
All right. Good breakdown. You've got Cleveland. All right, Lindsey, what's your take and call on this game?
Oh, man, it is hard for me to believe that Cleveland will not have a losing season. I don't care how good they are at rushing, Brian. The point scoring for the Browns, I think, averages like 31 points a game, but their defense gives up 31.5 points per game. And I feel like I don't trust Cleveland to win this one at all. So I've got Indianapolis going 34-21.
All right. Alan likes the Browns, and he likes the Browns seriously here. 27-17. He thinks Baker and company are going to get it done. I got to tell you, for me, this is all about that Indianapolis defense and the fact that they're so good against the run. They're going to make Baker Mayfield beat them. And up to this point, he just hasn't proven he can do it. And I'm going to have to see it. I like Old Man Rivers and Indianapolis in this one, 24-20. I think it's going to be a great game, though. And if you'd have asked me to pick that out at the beginning of the season, I'd be like, nah, I ain't watching that. But it's a good game. It's going to be a really good game. So couple of good AFC teams there. Well, Lindsey, you lead us off with our first featured game of the college weekend. And I think you're wearing some of the colors here, so this might be a biased opinion, but we'll see. So Virginia Tech, 2-0. Amazing that they pulled that off, considering 40 people off the team haven't been able to play this year. On the road to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels, who've also dealt with a little bit of that. That's the 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon kickoff on ABC. Tell us what we got.
Yeah, so I'm really pumped about this game. This is actually the game that I went to last year. If everyone recalls, that was the 6 overtime game where Virginia Tech won, but it did not look good, and it was not an easy win. It was for those fans who stuck it out, it was worth it. But I was definitely one of few still in the stadium, I think, by the end of it. It was cold. But it is a very different year, Jay. As you mentioned, Virginia Tech has had a lot of players out, about a third of our team, one of our coaches, 7 of our starters. And we have somehow managed to pull out 2 wins despite that. So what will this year bring? Who knows? And it's on the road for us. So we'll see if it's a repeat. I think it's going to be a close game. North Carolina, though, played a pretty slappy game last week, but it was their first game in 3 weeks, and they were clearly not really well conditioned for it. So they're likely to play better on Saturday. UNC's QB Sam Howell hasn't been as good this year as he has been last year, but UNC has some really key playmakers in Williams and Carter, so they could pull off some pretty big plays. They have a tough defense. They have a nation low 108 yards, allowing 108 yards so far in 2 games. But those 2 games were Syracuse and Boston. So combined average 2 yards per carry. So that might be a little inflated, but still decent statistic. I should also mention, too, UNC has a great recruiting program. UNC steals recruits that Virginia Tech wants every single year. So I'm not bitter about that. Just throwing it out there. They have a great
Mac Brown's bagman traveled with him. I'm going to tell you.
But UNC's team is young and potentially susceptible to a slightly more experienced Virginia Tech defense. Now, Virginia Tech hasn't used a ton of flash to win the last 2 games either. Part of that being because we're playing with a lot of youngsters, and haven't had a ton of time, to condition. Though Fuente's conditioning and practices have been interesting and clearly are working. He's done a lot of cross training across positions so that any player is really able to switch positions and flex as needed in the event that we lose a lot of players. He's had speakers come in, which I don't think is uncommon, but one of the big messages that he's been promoting is just one play at a time. And I think that for the last 2 games, that's made a huge difference for Virginia Tech. Now, we also, I should mention, have the current number 1 rusher in the country in Khalil Herbert, who is a transfer from Kansas, whose eligibility to play was actually up in the air due to a clerical error on his transfer. So we didn't know, and I keep saying we, but Virginia Tech didn't know that Herbert would be able to play until the week of the would-be season opener against UVA. So it was really cutting it close. The Virginia Tech's also the current number 1 team in yards per rush. Khalil Herbert carried the ball 20 times for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he'll likely be leaned on pretty heavily against UNC. Now, our QB for the last 2 games, Braxton Burmeister, is great at the read option. He hasn't shown a ton of promise in his passing game, but good news, Hendon Hooker is currently a thumbs up to be in this Saturday's game, and he is good at passing. So it is likely that we'll see Virginia Tech use both quarterbacks throughout the game, which could be a really positive thing. Now, Burmeister and Khalil Herbert have worked really well together in the last 2 games, which has helped quite a bit. Defensively, we do have some work to do. We're allowing 31 points and 410 yards of offense last Saturday. And there are still a lot of players who will be out. So the team could look similar to what it was the last 2 weeks, though we managed to make it work, even without our 2 deep. So we'll have to see. The VT pass rush will be essential, but I cannot stress this enough. I don't think we would be able to win this game without Hendon Hooker. So if something happens and he ends up getting taken out of the game, it's not going to look good for Virginia Tech. But as of now, based on all of the information that I have, I've got Virginia Tech winning 37-34. Go Hokies.
All right. Shootout City in Chapel Hill. Brian, what say you?
I think that leaves too much to ride on Hooker. So I'm going to pick the UNC Tar Heels to take this one. And I'm going to say 28-21.
All right. 28-21 from you. Alan also picks UNC. He's got them 31-27. For him, the difference is the quarterback play, Sam Howell. And for me, that's the reason I'm picking North Carolina as well. I haven't seen enough of the Virginia Tech pass rush to think that they're going to be able to get in his way enough. And UNC's defense is outstanding. I do think it's going to be a close game, though. I like low scoring in this one because I think the weather's going to be lousy. So I like UNC in this one 22-20 over Virginia Tech in a very close game on Saturday. So for our second tilt of the ACC, we're going to go to the nightcap. The Miami Hurricanes, 3-0 on the year, on the road to take on the machine that is the Clemson Tigers. 3-0 as well. That's the 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern ABC game. So, I mean, what can you say so far about what Clemson has done? I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence he's 55 of 75 on the year, so he's 72% passing, almost 900 yards passing, 7 touchdowns. He's also rushed for several touchdowns, really playing at top level. I mean, there's no doubt why this guy's going to be the top pick coming out next year. He's got Amari Rodgers on the outside catching balls. He's been sprinting it around a lot more this year, though, because they had a couple guys go down with injury. A couple dudes opted out, but Clemson is loaded at receiver and at tight end. And the thing that has really worked for Clemson this year is the way they've been able to run the football. And most of it's Travis Etienne. That guy's an absolute star. Now, he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. He's only got 2 scores on the year. That's because Trevor Lawrence keeps him on the inside. So it's kind of a Lance Harbor varsity blues thing. But I don't think they hate each other. Yeah, Travis Etienne is a stud. He also catches balls out of the backfield. So look, the Clemson offense is ginormous. What's different about Clemson this year is their defense. They're not full of stars that you know from the past, but they're still just as good. Now, the thing is, on the back end, they're not as strong as they used to be. Like, if you can go deep on them and get some time to throw a ball a little bit, you can get past their safeties, you can get around their corners. But their front 7 guys or the front 6 guys, the way they play them, almost impossible to run on, only giving up 90 yards a game, and that's because they're pulling starters in the second half of every game they've played in so far this year. So Clemson, very stout up front. Miami, we've talked about them before. Incredibly balanced team. 266 yards passing, 230 yards on the ground rushing per game. It all triggers off D'Eriq King. He's going at about a 66% passer rating, which is pretty good. 6 touchdowns on the year. He can also take off and run it. They've got Harris, the big running back, has been the workhorse. He's got 5 TDs, 311 yards on 38 carries this year. They've got Jordan outside that seems to be the go-to receiver, but as I demonstrated a couple weeks ago, they have lots of unique ways to get the ball out of D'Eriq King's hands and throw it down the field. That's the thing about this offense that's so tough, because they run at breakneck speed, but they're incredibly organized. Every drive has a goal, has packages, has stuff going on. It's going to be a real test for Clemson in this one to see if they can keep up with what Rhett Lashley's offense is doing at Miami. For me, though, the key is the Miami defense. They're giving up 230 yards through the air, which they've led in a lot of games, so they're getting thrown on a little bit, but they're giving up 147 yards rushing per game. Every team they've played has run on them in some way or another. And for me, if I'm Clemson and I'm looking at that I'm going, Trevor Lawrence may be a stud, but we're going to line up and pound the ball at these dudes, because our best defense is to make sure they are behind the time, behind the score all game, and don't have time to dink it and dunk it and pound it down the field on us. We're going to pound them, make them submit up front on defense. So that's, to me, is the big thing. Clemson can run the football well enough, and Miami is just not great at stopping the run. Now, they are going to be absolutely jacked for this game, no doubt. But Miami's got to go on the road, and Clemson is a hard place to go and play. They got all day to think about it. It's going to be nighttime. Death Valley and Clemson is a loud, loud place. I just can't pick the Canes in this one. I do think it's going to be a good back and forth game for a little while, but I like Clemson to win this one and pull away late. I'm going to take Clemson 34, Miami 24 in this game. Brian, what about you?
Well, I think that this is the game that we see who Miami is. This is their biggest test probably all year, and I don't think they're up to it. I think Clemson's going to win this game, and I think Clemson's going to win pretty easily. I got them 42-17.
Ooh, all right, Clemson with the dump truck. Lindsey, what about you?
Yeah, Miami's obviously the underdog here, and Clemson has to make a pretty big statement with this game. I think Miami's got a strong defense, but it's not strong enough, and I definitely have Clemson winning 21-7.
All right, you got Clemson winning in a low-scoring affair. Alan's got Clemson as well, and Brian, he agrees with you. He thinks they put them away and make a statement. It's 38-10. He's got Clemson winning, so we're straight across the board for the Clemson Tigers here. We'll see if they can do it. It's a 14.5-point favorite, and against undefeated teams, that's rare. So we'll see if they can cover that up. It's time to get into the lightning round. This is going to be a lot of fun. We got an extra lightning round game this week because Alan's not here, so we're going to toss the feature game he would have done in there, and we'll start with that one. In the Southeastern Conference, Tennessee, the Vols, 2-0 on the year, on the road to take on them Dogs from Georgia, also 2-0. That's the 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern CBS game of the week. Brian, who you got?
Well, I do want to just say that Alan sent me a nice message this week stating that when Georgia goes nuts on a team, they like to follow it up with a crap game. That being said, Alan, it ain't happening this week. Georgia is going to win this game. They're going to win it. No problem. I got Georgia 42, and Tennessee is going to get 27 points.
All right, 42-27. Lindsey, how about
Go
you?
Dogs.
I'm going Dogs too. Stetson Bennett has been great, hitting 65% of his passes for 451 yards and 3 scores with no picks so far. The Georgia offense is solid, and so is their run defense. So go Dogs, 27-17.
Yeah, Alan's got UGA winning this one as well, but he's got it close. He's got it 24-21 over Tennessee. He thinks Jeremy Pruitt's Vols will give him something. I'm going to make it 4-4, though. That Georgia defense is absolutely ferocious. Tennessee's not going to be able to move the ball on them. I like Georgia 24-10. I think they're just going to, anaconda a game out of this one. We go to the Big 12, or as Alan now calls this, the Red River Disappointment. Texas is 2-1, taking on Oklahoma 1-2 for the first time since 1999. That's the 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon, big noon kickoff on Fox. Brian, who you got?
It's hard for me to want to pick Texas here, but I have to go with Texas to win this game. They got to show something, right? They got to have some life here. I'm going Texas. I'm going to say a squeaker, 23-21.
All right, low scoring. Lindsey, what about you?
Yeah, they both need wins so badly, but Oklahoma needs it so much more, I think. And the Texas defense has been terrible, and Oklahoma defense has not been as terrible. So I've got Oklahoma getting it done 38-34.
Alan's got Texas winning the shootout 45-41 in this one. Lindsey, I'm with you, though. It's the battle of the less terrible defense. And I think Oklahoma is going to be super motivated in this one. I'll say right now, I think Lincoln Riley's a better coach than Tom Herman, and I think these guys are going to get behind it. But it's going to be a squeaker. I like Oklahoma 48-45 in this one. I think we're going to get some points in this one. But boy, I'm going to tell you though, if Oklahoma loses this, 1-3, buddy. And 0-3 in the conference, you're done. Like you're not winning that conference, and they're going to have a lot of help to even get back in it anyway. But they lose this one, and it is over. We go to the SEC, where someone must win. South Carolina 0-2 on the road to take on Vanderbilt 0-2. This could also be a race for which coach doesn't want to get fired the most. The 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon SEC Network throwaway game of the week. Brian, who you got?
Man, I mean, yeah, someone does have to win, because in college we don't have a tie. It just doesn't happen. So this could go 10 overtimes. Who knows, right? No, I'm going to go with South Carolina on this one. I don't know why. Maybe I just like their name better. Let's go with the Cox. And I'm gonna whatever. I'm gonna go 33-28.
33-28. Lindsey, who you got?
I think South Carolina will control the clock better, and essentially they're just going to wear Vanderbilt out. And so I've got South Carolina winning 24-16.
Yeah, Alan agrees with you. He thinks South Carolina finding that run game makes the difference. He's got them 31-17. I like South Carolina here, too. I think they're going to lean on them and win 24-16. Vanderbilt's bad, y'all. South Carolina's got problems. They ain't Vandy bad. If they lose that one, buddy, look, I know it's a $13 million buyout for South Carolina, and they don't have the money. Somebody going to find that check. I'm going to tell you that. So, like that can be had if you need it. So, final college game of the week, feature game. We'll stay with the Big 12. Kansas State 2-1 on the road to take on TCU. Gary Patterson's fighting Horned Frogs. That's the 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Fox game of the week. Brian, who are you taking?
I mean, I got to go with the Horned Frogs here. They're at home. I think that helps a lot. I remember when TCU was a hot team, right? When they were a real good team. So that always sticks in my head. They beat Texas. I don't know that that's saying a whole lot this year, but they did beat Texas. So I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs here. I'm going to pick them. Let's go with, let's make this a fun one. 42-38.
42-38. All right, Lindsey, what about you?
Well, Kansas State doesn't have a great defense, but they are killing it on turnovers. TCU could wear them out by controlling the clock, but I've got Kansas winning 30-27.
All right, Kansas State. Allen's got TCU in a close one as well. He likes them 27-20, or at least by a score, I should say. Look, anytime your mascot is an animal that shoots blood out of its eyes, I gotta think, there's a reason to pick you. Now, Wildcats can be pretty ferocious, but their defensive problems are a real thing. And I know they beat Oklahoma again, but I still don't trust their offense. Like, it's such a weird sort of, we kind of run the ball, but we don't really do anything great offense. TCU at least has something in Max Duggan at quarterback. I think he's a real stud. I like him. I'm going to take TCU in this one pretty good. I like them 46-32. I think they're going to get it done on Saturday. So we go to the NFL. Our first NFL lightning round game may or may not actually happen. We're not sure. But Brian, our Tennessee Titans 3-0 hosting the 4-0 Buffalo Bills. That's the 12 noon, 1 p.m. CBS national game. If it happens, who's going to win?
Well, I mean, we got two things going for us that are against us right here. Number one, a bunch of Titans decided to get together and work out at a high school locally against the COVID guidelines of the NFL, got busted, and now there's potential talk of them being forced to forfeit a game as a punishment and potentially lose a draft pick as a punishment. That's painful. Now that's working against us. So if the NFL doesn't do that, the other thing working against us is we had 2 straight days of negative COVID tests. And then today, our good guy, Corey Davis, comes down with the vid, and he is now on the IR for COVID. So they are not allowed to go back into the facility yet. They still have the game scheduled. They still think they're going to play it, but they have to have 3 straight days of negative COVID tests before they'll be allowed to play this game. So it's a situation of Tennessee having to come in last minute, just like the Patriots had to do this last week. And I don't think that bodes well on that. They have had no practice for 2 weeks, none other than Zoom calls. That doesn't help at all. So if this game happens, I think Buffalo is going to win this game. It may be at home in Tennessee, but they haven't seen that field in a while, so it's like an away game to them. So I'm picking Buffalo in this one if it happens, and I'm going to say Buffalo wins probably by a score of like 31-10. Just an awful showing for Tennessee.
All right, Lindsey, how about you?
Ooh, yeah. For all the reasons just stated, I too have Buffalo winning. I think Tennessee is going to be way out of conditioning, and Buffalo still has a really solid defense and Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So I had Buffalo winning a closer game, but I'm going to change my score on the fly to 31-7.
All right. Allen actually likes the Titans here, and this was a pick given today. And so he likes the Titans 20-16. He thinks they can still get it done. Look, Brian, I think you've nailed it. 2 weeks out, there's just no way to keep any kind of rhythm going. Also, Josh Allen is killing it this year. He looks like a real quarterback. They've got a back. They've got everything about Buffalo right now looks really, really strong. I like Buffalo in this one. I like them 20-3. I had it pretty ugly as well. I don't think Tennessee's gonna be able to do much in this game if it happens. So next one though, Arizona. 2-2, finally getting some things going there with the Cardinals. Go on the road to take on the New York Jets, where how is Adam Gase not the first guy fired? But Bill O'Brien beat him to it. 12 noon, 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. Nobody's going to be watching this game, but we're going to pick it nonetheless. So, Brian, who you got?
Sam Darnold, enjoy your time because it will end soon and you will be replaced at the end of this year. I am sorry. This team is wretched. And you're right. Gase surviving so far is a miracle. But yeah, I can't go against Arizona. Arizona actually looks pretty good as a team. Their record is only 2-2, but you got Kyler Murray playing really good football for this team. They did something right here. Everybody laughed when what's the name of the coach they hired there?
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, when he was hired, they all thought, "Oh, this is a bad hire." Kingsbury came in, got his guys put together in there, and he's running the offense he wants to run, and he's got that team working the way he wants to do it. And there's nothing but a bright future right now in Arizona for them. And so I got them winning this game. I think they're the better team, and I think they're a team to watch this year even as well into the future. So I'm going to go the Cardinals winning this game. And again, it's going to be ugly for the Jets because there's just nothing there for them. And if they score, it'll be a defensive score. So let's go 28-7.
All right. Lindsey, what about you?
Yeah, I've got Arizona too. The Jets are giving up way too many yards per carry. Arizona has a decent run game when they want to. I've got Arizona winning 37-20.
Yeah, Alan's got Arizona here 38-10 as well. I like the Cardinals here too. That run game with Kenyon Drake and with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's not, slinging it all over the field, but he's being efficient. He's not turning the ball over. Moreover, I don't think you could turn the ball over against the Jets. If you do, you should be fired immediately, or at least fined, because the Jets are horrid beyond belief. It's perfect for October that they are the worst and scariest looking team in the world. Arizona 39-10. I think they're going to put it on them pretty good.
Yeah, let's give props to Kenyon Drake, man. This guy looked like his career was on the downturn in Miami, and now he gets traded over to Arizona, and it's been a new life for him. So congrats to him, because he was one of those guys everyone thought was going to be the star in Miami for them, and then just nothing happened there.
Yeah, it could have been. They just weren't using him. They threw him out in Arizona, and he's perfect in that offense. Moreover, DeAndre Hopkins has caught more balls than all the receivers that the Texans have combined this year. So I think he's making a statement, and he just got paid. So he's good to go. So yeah, we all like Arizona here. Jets go 0-5. I'm going to call it right there. I think Gase is done. I think he'll be next show. He should be gone at this point. Not that it's going to matter, because the Jets have been horrible for 50 years. Last game on the NFL docket for the week, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew 1-3. Yeah, they opened up with a win, and they've gone down 3 in a row, but not because of him necessarily. On the road to take on those Houston Texans, 0-4, now led by Romeo Crennel. That's an early kick as well on CBS. Brian, does Houston recover? Do they get energized under the interim coach?
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, I really like how Gardner Minshew plays the game. Nobody knew who this guy was. He came in with his big porn stash last year and just took the league by storm. And this year he's playing really good ball. His team's not winning because they got no one to stop anyone on their defense, but he's playing good ball. Now, Romeo Crennel, we know him as a defensive-minded coach, right? He has always been a defensive coordinator when it comes to Cleveland. When he coached there, he was a defensive-oriented guy. I don't know if that helps when you got Deshaun Watson there and nobody to throw to. If you start focusing on that defense, that, let's just say it's just not there like it used to be. I got to go with Gardner Minshew to get the upset here. I really do think it is an upset, even though they have the one win of the two teams here. I think it's still an upset. It's at Houston. I'm picking the Jaguars to win this game. It's going to be an ugly affair. Let's pull it out by a field goal at the end and go 30-27.
All right. Lindsey, what do you say?
I mean, the Texans can make big plays on occasions, and Jacksonville's passing defense is crap, like literally the worst passing defense. So I mean, Texans defense isn't much better. Their pass rush isn't terrible, though. I've got Houston winning 20-17.
All right. Alan likes Jacksonville here too, 35-24. He thinks Minshew mania continues. I got Houston here too, though, and I'll tell you why. That Jacksonville defense is just awful. And I think these guys are – I mean, honestly, I think there's a big lift in the locker room because O'Brien was not well liked by anybody there, particularly the quarterback.
There was no love lost with that.
No one cried when that happened.
Nope.
And so I think Deshaun Watson's going to get these guys rallied for a week and get them back. I got Houston here 34-27 in a game that ultimately won't matter at all because they're chasing each other for the basement of the AFC South. But there we go. Gardner Minshew, you talk about a guy that's had like a storied life the last few years. He went from being invited as a walk-on GA transfer at Alabama so you can learn how to coach under Nick Saban to at the last minute, Mike Leach calls him and said, I kind of need a quarterback up here in Pullman, Washington. You would come up, goes up there, blows every record Washington State has, gets himself on an NFL squad, starts after Nick Foles goes down and just wipes up, the league, living in a van down by the river. I mean, the dude is charmed life. So good for him. He's one of those fun stories in the NFL. When he opens up his insurance agency or his IHOP, whichever he goes with, he'll have good stories.
Car dealership. There you go. That as well. Alan did send in a danger zone pick of the week because after striking gold last week, he couldn't let it go again. he goes into the G5 this week. The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, one of the coolest mascots in the world, out of Myrtle Beach, behind freshman phenom quarterback Grayson McCall. He's got them taking out the Lafayette Raging Cajuns 38-23 this week. He thinks the Raging Cajuns' luck is going to run out on them against the Chanticleers. So we'll see if Coastal Carolina can get that done and if Louisiana can avoid the danger zone traps. So,
I did a danger zone just in case because Alan wasn't going to be here. So let me please add my piece here.
Yes.
Cincinnati at Baltimore. Watch that game. Lamar Jackson has a bum knee right now. He is held out of practice today because of it. If that continues, we could see an upset with Joe Burrow getting his first NFL win coming into the Baltimore and using that momentum to take down the Ravens.
That would be a massive win to go on the road and do
that.
They
Huge win.
They got a win last week, but to go on the road and do that, that would be something. Got to say, Joe Burrow has lived up to the hype in the NFL. I've been really impressed with that. So, well, we've kind of been, welcome to the Fired Coach Grill home on a buyout special tonight, as we've talked about Adam Gase and Bill O'Brien. I wanted to kind of throw it to you all, college or NFL, other people you think that are on the hot seat that might not make it through the end of the season. Brian, we'll start with you.
Matt Patricia rings the bell. I mean, those Lions, he's a defensive-minded coach, and those Lions defense doesn't look good. Like it always never looks good. But, I don't know if it's time to fire both him and Matt Stafford now because obviously, the numbers say Stafford's a great quarterback, but he doesn't win games. He just doesn't win games. And that is the point of this journey. So I would put him up there as a potential here.
I will say this. Huge mistake firing Jim Caldwell. Should have never, ever
massive mistake.
Yep. Should have never done it. Lindsey, what do you say?
Les Miles at Kansas.
Oh yeah.
He's stubborn. They're losing, and a lot of people don't really like him that much. And it has been questioned why he was ever hired as the head coach to begin with. So I think if he has, I think he's only, I don't want to say one loss away, but at least a few dirty losses away from getting the axe.
Yeah, Kansas has already lost to bad teams and to teams. Coastal Carolina's not a bad team, but like teams they shouldn't lose to. They still have to live with like Oklahoma and Texas, who are going to.
And they've lost bad. They haven't lost by 3 points. They've lost by double digits. So
if you're Kansas, it's the same as Kentucky football. You don't have ridiculous expectations. You just don't want to look embarrassing. You just want to look good enough to get the basketball season and make a bowl. And that's all you need to do. And you can do that there. Like it's not that long ago, they were winning 8 and 9 and 10 games, and so you can win there and win enough to keep it at bay, but that's a good one, Lindsey. Yeah. Les Miles is just that experiment is just not going to go well for him. If I have to put a coach out, I already kind of put Muschamp and Mason from the SEC on the hot seat. Again, the Muschamp situation is complicated because of the money. I'll put one that's a little different out there. I'm going to say Tom Herman at Texas is in some real trouble if they lose this weekend, because Texas people have no patience for anything that is not excellent. And they've been waiting for it to come through, and they got the senior quarterback, and they got all the and Matthew McConaughey's over here doing this and all that. And they're still, they still lose to TCU. They could lose to Oklahoma, which would be like the 5th time out of the last 6. I think Tom Herman's in trouble at Texas. People think I'm crazy. They're like, oh, there's no way. Texas will straight. They will stroke that check and not even think. Like that is somebody's weekend gambling money from their alumni pool, man. They got no problems writing that out and going and getting another one because that is how they roll at Texas. They do not wait. And here's the thing. I mean, realistically, too, they've recruited well, but a lot of their young players don't look that great. And part of that is they didn't have much of an offseason, right? But so neither did anybody else. There seems to be no plan other than Sam Ehlinger, please save us. And if he gets hurt, they are done. And moreover, they don't win with him this year. They got to reset that clock next year. And you see what Oklahoma is going through. I mean, Spencer Rattler's a stud quarterback, but he's got to go through some growing pains before they get any good, right? Texas, I mean, if we go back to normal season next year and Texas rolls in and goes 7-5 next year, he will straight be fired. But they may do it beforehand anyway. So I think Tom Herman's on the old clock there. So watch out for Herman. Never know. Alan, I kind of asked him a week or so ago, and he said, if things keep going bad for LSU, Ed O might fall the way of Gene Chizik in a couple of years, but we'll see. I mean, they kind of corrected themselves against Vanderbilt last week, so we'll see what LSU's got left in the tank. He don't want to go
Vanderbilt.
Oh, there you go. That says it all. Well, Vanderbilt exists for 2 reasons in the SEC: baseball and GPA, and that's kind of it. So. But again, there's only so much losing they will tolerate as well as football, because they will fire a coach too. Mason is probably on his way out there because Vandy just puts nothing in their program, and they don't care. So it is what it is. But that when you don't care, here are the results you get, children. So it's tough to go play there, even though they do have some good young players. Well, it's been a lot of fun once again here on the Gridiron Breakdown, folks. If you follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/the Gridiron Breakdown, you can always watch the show live Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you listen to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, please leave us a review. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. You'll know when the next vid goes up. And we'll see if things continue as they have for the last 3 weeks, where Alan and Lindsey keep tying each other and sort of chasing each other around 2 and 3. Brian is just out front like Jeff Gordon in his heyday. And I'm sitting over here, just taking a nice Sunday drive.
Just playing the game.
What I'm doing? I'm Matt Staffording this whole thing.
There you go.
I'm putting up stats, and it means nothing. So that is how it is rolling. But it will be a lot of fun to get into it with you guys again next week. So, Lindsey, real quick, one last thing. You've got on the Virginia Tech jersey. What player are you wearing?
Oh, so this was number 3. I bought it when Logan Thomas was our quarterback, the sledgehammer. He is now, I believe, a tight end for the Washington football team, but he was our sledgehammer quarterback for a few years.
I remember him because when they started playing him, they were trying to do like Cam Newton with him, and then they realized he couldn't throw, but he could catch.
Yeah,
so
he's much better not being a quarterback.
He's actually a pretty good tight end. He's not.
He is. Yeah, he's done really well. Yeah,
not half bad. So, well, very cool. Yeah. I had to know. I was like, and if you were rocking the Vic or what you had going on there. So
no, I got this back in the sledgehammer heyday.
Nice. So, well, for Lindsey, for Brian, I'm Jay. For Alan, who's on assignment, be back next week. We appreciate you hanging in here, watching and listening to the Gridiron Breakdown. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy football, and we'll be back to talk with you about it next week.
Thank you for listening to the Gridiron Breakdown.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? I just hope we can win a game.
Follow us on our website, thegridironbreakdown.com, or on Facebook.
We do things around here my way. You understand that? You're going to be stuck in spring all your life, boy. I don't want your life.
Tune in next week for more analysis and opinion from our hosts.
Now, y'all scared to ask another question?
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.